Hello, grade 10 students, and welcome to another exciting music lesson that for sure you'll be familiar with. This is your music teacher, Ma'am Jen, and I will guide you in learning one of the interesting theatrical performances loved by all ages, the musical play. Probably one of the art forms loved by many, the young and the old, is musical play. Its combination of acting, singing, and dancing in a colorful spectacle makes it so appealing to audiences of all ages. Have you watched a musical movie? If you do, you might comment down your favorite musical movie. For me, one of my favorite musicals is Les Miserables. Are you familiar with it? Did you know that at present, some musicals are still being staged and some are being produced as a film? Now let's talk about the interesting background of musical plays and its elements that make it different from other types of performing arts. The musical play is a popular and generally lighter form of musical drama than the opera. The themes are usually more contemporary and most of the time very relatable among the youth. The musical melodies are also more manageable by the average singer as compared to the opera where the singer has to sing more powerfully. Also, in a musical play, there is spoken dialogue as compared to an opera where the dialogue is entirely sung. When it comes to acting, musical plays are less intense and dramatic. The choreography and dance sequences provide visual breaks from the ongoing plots. Looking back, historians believe that the early musical theater began in ancient Greece about more than 2,000 years ago. Comedies and tragedies were staged in open-air amphitheaters. Later, Roman comedies included song and dance performed with the orchestra. They used methods like special effects to make their show more exciting. Modern musical theater began in the mid to late 1800s. Since then, musical plays have been associated with the Broadway plays of New York City and West End productions of London. So why are they called Broadway plays? The answer is simply, it's an old tradition. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, the majority of large successful theaters were located on Broadway, but over the last century, many moved to neighboring streets within the area to perform their plays. Broadway musicals are family entertainment with themes and texts which are generally light and easy to understand. This may include the problems of everyday life, such as love and romance, social acceptance, jealousy and intrigue, and adventure. The singing is usually amplified, unlike the operatic quality of classically trained voices. And speaking of Broadway plays, the first major Broadway musical was Showboat, which featured the popular mode of transport in the American frontier. Since then, musicals have presented other themes such as Siamese royalty in The King and I, English aristocracy in My Fair Lady, Austrian history in The Sound of Music, medieval English tragedy in Camelot, and interracial gang rivalry and romance in West Side Story. Have you heard of these musicals before? Many Broadway musicals were also made into films and many of its songs have become popular hits. Among these are Climb Every Mountain from Sound of Music, I Could Have Danced All Night from My Fair Lady, Hopelessly Devoted to You from Grease, Memory from Cats, Some Enchanted Evening from South Pacific, and Sun Moon from Miss Saigon. A number of other musicals were also adaptations of classical operas. Among these were Miss Saigon, based on Puccini's Madame Butterfly, and Aida from Verdi's opera with the same title. Are you familiar with this song? Comment down the title if you do. How about this one? With the development of technology, modern productions like The Phantom of the Opera, Les Miserables, Beauty and the Beast, and Lion King have enthralled audiences with amazing set designs, elaborate costumes, and computer-generated visual and sound effects. When talking about musical plays, one Filipino artist would stand out who attained international status on both London's West End and Broadway. She is, of course, none other than Lea Salonga. Lea Salonga is best known for her portrayal of Kim in the musical Miss Saigon, a role for which she won the prestigious Tony Award for Theatre in the USA and the Laurence Olivier Award in London. Lea Salonga is the first Filipina to have won various international awards for a single role. Miss Saigon is a musical by Claude Michel Schoenberg and Alain Boublil with lyrics by Richard Maltby Jr. It is a modern adaptation of Giacomo Puccini's opera Madame Butterfly, which also tells the tragic tale of a doomed romance wherein an Asian woman is abandoned by her Caucasian lover. Following Miss Saigon, Lea Salonga was the first Asian to play the role of Eponine in the musical Les Miserables, my favorite one, based on the novel of the same title written in 1862 by the French author Victor Hugo. Now let's learn about the next two famous musical plays of all time. The Phantom of the Opera is a Broadway musical by Andrew Lloyd Webber and Richard Stilgoe with lyrics by Charles Hart and music by Lloyd Webber. It is based on the novel The Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux. The story focuses on a beautiful soprano singer, Christine Daae, as she is seduced by a mysterious, disfigured musical genius known as the Phantom of the Opera. The Phantom lives beneath the Paris Opera House and terrorizes those who work there. He demands that Christine be the star of the theater's productions. When the young singer rejects the Phantom's advances and her lover Raoul intervenes, the Phantom sets no limits in his pursuit of revenge and of Christine's love. However, Christine escapes with Raoul to the roof where she tells him about her subterranean rendezvous with the Phantom. Raoul is skeptical but swears to love and to protect her always, as demonstrated in their song, All I Ask of You. Did you know that The Phantom of the Opera is one of the longest-running Broadway musicals of all time? The musical opened at Her Majesty's Theatre on October 9, 1986, and at the Majestic Theatre in New York on January 26, 1988. At the 1988 Tony Awards, the Broadway production was nominated for 11 awards and won 7, including the coveted Best Musical Award. The musical also won 7 awards at the 1988 Drama Desk Awards. So if you haven't seen it yet, I recommend you watch its movie version so you could appreciate its overall production. Another longest-running West End musical in history and is still running is Les Miserables. Les Miserables, known as Les Mis, in English translation means The Miserable Ones, is a musical composed in 1980 by French composer Claude Michel Schoenberg with libretto by Alain Boublil. It is based on the novel Les Miserables by Victor Hugo. It is perhaps the most famous of all French musicals and one of the most famous musicals performed worldwide. Les Mis tells the story of a paroled convict, Jean Valjean, who, failing attempts to find work as an honest man, breaks his chains and conceals his identity in order to live his life again. To date, a number of musical plays have been staged since the early 20th century until today, some of which were also adapted into films and series like The High School Musical, which a lot of you for sure are familiar with. As the art form progresses and new writers, voices, and artists emerge to create and reinterpret this art form, we still have so much to learn and witness about it. After all, theater, like music, continues to evolve. So if you get the chance to watch a musical play on stage in the future, don't hesitate to try and see its rich and creative production that would bring you a whole new aesthetic experience. Now, let's talk about some of the musical plays staged here in the Philippines. When it comes to performing arts, Filipinos are never far behind, be it an opera, ballet, or musical plays. In fact, through the years, Philippine theater groups have staged a number of plays in both English and Filipino, be it written by a Western or local playwright. So how are musical plays differently staged here? In the Philippines, the musical play is a more recent development than Broadway and West End, relying mostly on adaptations from novels, literary works, or biographical sketches of famous artists. Let's now take a look at some of the first musical plays staged in the Philippines. One of the first plays staged in our country was Andres Bonifacio, Ang Dakilang Anak Pawis. It is a 5-act work commissioned by Alfonso Puyat in 1979, depicting the life of revolutionary hero Andres Bonifacio. It was co-produced by the Cultural Center of the Philippines and the Andres Bonifacio Music Foundation Incorporated, and was staged again at the CCP Main Theater on August 20 and 21, 1994, with Jerry Dada as composer-conductor and the late Elmo Maquil as Bonifacio. When talking about the history of Philippine theater and musicals, two female artists stood out, Atang de la Rama and Katie de la Cruz. Honorata de la Rama was the first superstar of the Philippines. Popularly known as Atang de la Rama, she was a singer, vaudeville performer, and the first Filipina film actress. She was born in Tondo, Manila on January 11, 1902 and died on July 11, 1991. By the age of 7, she was already performing in a number of Spanish zarzuelas. At the age of 15, she became popular with the song Nabasag ang Banga in the Filipino zarzuela Dalagang Bukid. The musical play Atang Dulang May Musika, written by Floyd Quintos, directed by Alexander Cortez, and with music by Von de Guzman, was shown at the Guerrero Theater, Palma Hall in UP Diliman in 2008 as part of the Zarzuela Festival organized by the UP College of Arts and Letters. Another promising artist in the field of theater arts was Katie de la Cruz, who was hailed as the Queen of Filipino Jazz and Queen of Vaudeville. Catalina de la Cruz was born in Bulacan on February 13, 1907 and died on November 10, 2004. Her career spanned 8 decades, during which time she became the highest-paid Filipino entertainer. She appeared in films, jazz venues, theaters, and vaudeville. A vaudeville, or vaudeville in Tagalog, was a popular form of entertainment from the 1910s to the 1960s. It showed songs and dances, slapstick comedy routines, and magic acts, with chorus girls providing musical and dance support. It was often used to fill in gaps between short Spanish zarzuelas or between acts of longer ones. The musical Katie is about the life of Katie de la Cruz. It was initially presented by Actors Studio East Production in 1988. The play commissioned Ryan Cayabyab for the music and Jose Javier Reyes for the lyrics. It starred Mitch Valdez in the title role. The opening scene of the musical Katie starts with a visit by Katie, already in her old age, to the theater where she used to perform during her glorious past.
Sari-saring mga tinig at anino na bumabalik, kasabay ng mga napakatamis na alaala.
Learning that it would soon be closing down, Katie reminisces on her past. The musical unfolds as a retrospect of her performances.
Entablato'y iyong titingnan, kung iyong pakikinggan, ano, sino, bakit, saan, dulo, pinagmulan.
Some songs in the musical included Minsan ang Minahal Ay Ako, Saging, Luha sa Kinalimutang Lupa, Aba Baba, Boogie, and Tingnan Mo Nga Naman. Now here's an excerpt of the song titled Minsan ang Minahal Ay Ako.
Ano na lang yung sandali na makatikim ng pagmamahal, matapos ang luhang ipinagpalit. Ang sandali di naman magtagal, ang yakap mo'y hanap-hanapin. Akala ko ang mundo na ay akin, ngunit hindi pala ganyan. E bilis makalimutan na minsan ang minahal ay ako.
Aside from the themes about the lives of famous artists, some musical plays revolved around the stories of popular Philippine literary works like Florante at Laura. The musical Florante at Laura was presented by Tanghalang Pilipino at the CCP Little Theater from July 7 to 24, 1988. This was in celebration of the 200th birth anniversary of the author Francisco Balagtas Baltasar. The musical was selected as the official Philippine entry to the first ASEAN Theater Festival in August 1988. The musical is an adaptation of the original Florante at Laura, where damned souls are given the chance to be saved from eternal damnation if they can prove the existence of true love. They are then transformed into the characters portrayed in the Florante at Laura story, where a happy ending liberates the two unfortunate pairs of lovers. Another musical play staged in 1991 at the CCP was about the myth on the origin of Mount Mayon that is centered on an immortal tale of love familiar to all people in the Bicol region, the Daragang Magayon. This musical production is a production for poetry and mixed media for male and female narrators, female voice, 2 percussionists, 2 pianists, and 2 dancers. The music was composed by national artist Ramon Santos. One of the musical plays staged that has been very popular, especially among the youth, is Magsimula Ka. The musical play Magsimula Ka by Hines Tan was staged at the CCP Main Theater from April 7 to 24, 1988. As the winner of the CCP Playwriting Contest in 1983, it became one of the longest-running musicals at the CCP. Later, it underwent a series of revivals in the ensuing years, while some of its initial lead performers eventually became stars in their own right. Magsimula Ka is the story of young dreamers whose ambitions begin to fade in life's realities. They are part of the graduating class filled with hope but end up compromising their idealism for their own survival. Other musical plays staged in the Philippines were No Le Mi Tangere, the musical, which was staged at the CCP Little Theater from February 1 to 4, 1996, as a production of Tanghalang Pilipino and El Filibusterismo the Musical, which was a 2-act play that was staged at the CCP Main Theater from August 8 to 10, 1997 as a production of Tanghalang Pilipino. The music for these 2 musical plays was composed by national artist Ryan Cayabyab. Though musical plays in the Philippines were largely influenced by Spanish and American styles, we cannot deny the fact that the artistry of Filipinos greatly come alive in art forms like this. It is through performing arts that we could truly appreciate the Filipinos' talents and our unique cultural identity. Time to check how well you understood our lesson. Write true if the statement is correct and write false if it is wrong. You may comment down your answers. Musical play is a theatrical performance that combines acting, singing, and dancing. The answer is true. In a musical play, the dialogue is entirely spoken. The answer is false. The dialogue in a musical play is sometimes sung and sometimes spoken. Lea Salonga is best known for her portrayal of Kim in the musical Miss Saigon. The answer is true. The first musical plays in the Philippines relied mostly on adaptations from novels, literary works, or biographical sketches of famous artists. The answer is true. The first Filipino actress is Katie de la Cruz. The answer is false. Atang de la Rama was the first Filipino actress. Well done, students, if you got all the answers correctly. That's it for today, and I hope that you learned a lot. Once again, this is your music teacher, Ma'am Jen, and always remember, there is music in you, and the most powerful instrument that you have is that passion to keep learning. Have a great day!